Welcome back to part 4. Part 4 of a spoiler intense review of Stranger Things Volume 4. But this time I'm doing Volume 2 because just go watch the other ones for Volume 1. Why was that so hard for me to remember? Okay, so I'm going to start off with just reviewing the questions that I had in the last video that were answered in part 2, volume 2. So, one of my questions was just about how the portal closed, and I was like, how did the people in the lab see 11 vanquish Vecna and then just not notice the portal at all, and then just like go about their day and like not investigate it at all, and 11 didn't say anything about it and nothing. I mean, like, she didn't speak very much, so that kind of makes sense that she wouldn't say anything. But then in the beginning of part 2, they were just like, no, we did notice the portal, and you, 11, you just forgot about it. You just like lost your memory somehow and your powers, so that's why season 1 shows that you don't have any, because you forgot about them. It's like, that is like a soap opera plot device of like, they got amnesia, so now we can do a different plot. And it's like, well, I don't know, like, and I hear that the Duffer Brothers went back and like changed stuff in the previous seasons to line up with season 4, and I don't know what those specifics are, but like, I don't like that. Like, just let it fit in the show. Like, don't like force it and then like have to backtrack and then use like, they just forgot. And that's why season 1 has her learning to use her telekinetic powers. It's not because she learned in season 1. She did stuff way before that, and yep, just forgot about it. Even though she didn't lose her memory when she lost her powers in season 3. So I don't know why those two things went together. Like, for some reason, when she was a little kid, she used up all her powers and then forgot about everything. Because she didn't recognize the Demogorgon, and that was like a whole plot point between her and Papa, and Papa was like Papa was like using her to go find Vecna, and like knew that he was putting her in danger, like just to find his little boy and stuff. And she's like, "That's mean. Don't do that." And then, but then how come she lost her powers last season? But she remembered everything, and she knew that she had powers, and she just couldn't use them. But she knew that she had them, and she knew why she lost them. Well, kind of. She knew when she lost them, and she knew her whole life up to that point. Like, she just didn't have them. But when she was 8, she lost all her powers and forgot everything. And that's just like so convenient, isn't it? Yeah. And it's like they were like made it out to be like, okay, well then all of the research was just to find the little boy. I forget his name. What is his name? Creel? Um, Vecna. They just to find Vecna. So if this is a government agency, how did that get funded? How did all of this portal exploration get funded? Like, if the only point of putting 11 in the portals, or like, in her little mind palace, like, to go and search through the darkness, if that the only point was to go retrieve Vecna, then how did that get funded? And then I'll come back to this part too, but like, how are the Russians related to that? Like, the Russian government somehow also knew about the portal and was exploring it. Like, they had their own portal and they were exploring it and had their own little demigorgons. But then, like, they don't know Vecna. They had no reason to explore the portals, and then you could say, like, oh, well, they were using them for weapons. But it's like, how'd they even find out about them? Like, how is Vecna even related to the Russians, and why would the Americans give, unless there was, like, I know that America was spying on the Russians, but maybe, like, the Americans were spying on the Russians, and the Russians knew about the Upside Down. So then what? How did they know about the Upside Down? And why are they invested in the Upside Down? Like, how did they get that information when Papa is only looking into the Upside Down now because he's trying to retrieve his little boy to do more experiments on him? Like, the Russians don't have a little boy to do experiments on. I mean, they might, but I mean, not like in the same capacity. There's a Russian Vecna that also got trapped in the Upside Down, and it's like his friend slash rival, and they like have been like battling the past few years, and that's why he was distracted and only started coming through the portal again in 1983 because he was like, I'm having fun here. That would be something. Why are the Russians related? How did the Russians have so many demigorgons? Okay, so I was asking about the clock also last video, and it's like, they didn't explain why Vecna chooses the clock as his symbol, and it is to be assumed that it's just because it's in his house. And they're like, but they gave the clock more meaning because they're like, the clock always strikes 4 times, and Vecna wants 4 children, and then he'll open 4 portals, and then he'll take over Hawkins with 4 portals because there's 4 chimes, and it's like, well, why does he need 4? Who decided that he only needed 4? Did he pick specific locations to take them? And how would Vecna know that Chrissy would talk to Eddie and go to his trailer? Does Vecna know the drug dealers of the school and he knew that Chrissy would choose to drug herself to get rid of the Vecna problem? Or is it completely arbitrary where the portals are? And why would he need 4 if it's like completely arbitrary where the portals are? Because it makes sense if there was like faults in Hawkins that he could like crack open or something, but if it's just 4 for no reason, and then the clock is no reason, and that's not foreshadowing because it's not like the clock chimes when they die, like that's not, it wasn't like there was 1 for Chrissy, 2 for the other kid, 3 for the other kid. It was like always 4. It was never correlated that the chimes meant the children. It was never correlated why he chooses children, because adults are very tortured. He could have gone after an adult. He could have gone after like a hermit who nobody checks in on. He could have gotten one of those real easy. Why children? They have guidance counselors. It's not like they were telling their friends about it though. Like, it's not like, ooh, gossip about the school. I'm going crazy. Get your Vecna deals today. Like, it wasn't like he needed teenagers to spread the word to make everybody else crazy. He just needed 4 people arbitrarily, and he got them. And if he needed 4, why was he so tied to Max? Why didn't he just go find somebody else when he couldn't get Max? Did he need, like, I know that he built it up, but he only built it up over 3 days. He could have gotten somebody else in that time. Like, so their little plan to be like, okay, well, I'll just bait Vecna. I'll just bait Vecna and be like, oh yes, Vecna, I'm ready to go. And then he falls for it, and their plan works. And I'm like, if I were Vecna, and I've been waiting all this time for my little plan, why does it matter if it's Max? I bet he had a whole book we could go after. We had troubled pasts, Max was like a convenient one, but it's like, well, why would he pick that one guy and that other guy and Chrissy? Like, he could have picked anybody in the school. Like it wasn't like in like My Little Pony when it had to be like, I am the element of kindness and I am the element of honesty. Like, they weren't like anything particular. They were just random teenagers who were sad. But okay. So then it still doesn't answer why the Upside Down is in 1983. And I said that wrong a bunch of times last video, but 1983. Um, it doesn't explain that at all. It doesn't it kind of explains why Vecna's back now, but not really. So they just kind of are like, well, Vecna's been back since 1983. Maybe I'm misremembering. I watched it like a month ago, but like, he's been back because he is the Mind Flayer and he has been here the whole time. And it's like, well, why did he wait until 1983 then? Like, why didn't. If he can make his own portals by getting in people's heads, unless he needed the portal in the first place. But then, I know that he gave like a long speech to Eleven about how, like, oh, well, you think you're so great, but you're not. You're a bad person too, and stuff. And she was like, no, we're not bad people. Papa was a bad person. And then he's like, nah, yeah, he was bad, but I'm cool now, and you could have been cool too, and you're not. You suck. So we're not going to be friends anymore. I'm going to destroy the world, and you're going to watch. And she's like, no. But like, he was like talking about like how, oh, he was just being like, oh, well, you think you're so great, but you're just ignoring your fate by closing all those portals even though you opened them in the first place, and you just can't accept that you let the evil into the world, and you banished me instead of working with me in the first place. So you're no better than him anyway. And they're like, well, they're both like freaking children anyway. Like, it's not like 11 like got to talk about this with anybody, and it's not like if she did, like, anyone would have any reference to like how to be like, okay, well, that's messed up. Like, nobody could say that really to her because all your friends are children. And okay. But like, weird to blame her for it too, but I guess like, but that wasn't that. Okay, whatever. Okay. Other question. Okay, I asked who is the Mind Flayer and why is he there, and they answered that by saying that Vecna, when he first got to the Upside Down, he wandered around and saw a big spooky cloud, and he was like, meow, and then turned into a spider because he's like, spiders are cool. He didn't get any other hobbies the whole time. He stayed whatever age he was when he moved to Hawkins. He was like, spiders, hobby, all set, no more stuff. Like, he didn't like get like really into Star Wars or something and then like make the Demigorgons act out Star Wars for him or whatever. Like, he just stuck with spiders because there's no internet, so you can't have any other hobbies but one thing, and that one thing has to be an animal because how else are you gonna know what's in the world? Like, I know that he was probably psychologically stunted from all the tests that were run on him, but like, his only hobby is spiders? His only hobby is spiders. That was really forced. Like, they're like, oh, frick, the Mind Flayer looks like a spider. Victor Creel, son, whatever his name is, Vecna, he likes spiders. Okay, set, we're good. He is the Mind Flayer. Alright, that's all wrapped up. Even though, like, the Mind Flayer doesn't really look like a spider. The Mind Flayer looks more like the thingy in The Mist, that, like that Stephen King movie. It looks more like that thing. It doesn't really look, I mean, there are spiders in that movie, but I mean, like, it's more like a creature. It's not really like a